Welcome to the Bureau of Ghana Languages podcast session. My name is Kwabananan and I'm your host for today. Today's conversation is part of the activities leading up to our main event as the International Mother Languages Day, which is going to be celebrated on the 21st of February 2025. Today's discussion, we are looking at how the speaking of mother tongue impacts the cognitive development, particularly in children. And with me here, I have two honorable guests who are going to help us with today's discussion. So to help us discuss this topic today, I have with me here Professor Ephraim Avea Nsoh and Professor Adams Bodomo. Professor Adams Bodomo is the Professor of African Studies, the Chair of African Linguistics and Literature at the University of Vienna, currently with the University of Ghana, the Chair at the Linguistics and Biodiversity. Also, Professor Ephraim Avea Nsoh is also a renowned educationist, a linguistics professor, and also one the principal of colleges of education. Gentlemen, you are welcome to today's discussion.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having us.
Okay, so gentlemen, today we are looking at how speaking one's mother tongue impacts the cognitive development, particularly in children. But first of all, I want us to take it from this area. What is actually the relationship between a child's mother tongue and their cognitive development? When you say a child's mother tongue and their cognitive, what is actually the difference between that? So I think Prof, I'll start with you. When we say a child's mother tongue and cognitive development, what's the difference?
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. If you are talking about the cognitive development, you are talking about the person's mental skills, his cognitive skills, his understanding of issues that you teach him or he learns around himself in his environment. It's about his ability to resolve problems. All these are things that we talk about his cognitive skills. And of course, we are not talking about the child's development. We are talking of right from when the person gets out of the mother's tummy, within the environment, whatever he learns throughout life, whether it's through visually, whether it's through his hearing system, whether it's his understanding of issues around his environment, that is what is development. It can be, and it depends on the various stages. It can be within the home, his home environment, it can be school environment. Any environment a child finds inside, he learns. But that is a continuous journey. It's not a journey that sort of breaks sometimes. Of course, even if the person is sick or whatever, he's in a certain state, he's still learning. So that is cognitive development in relation to the child's development.
Okay. So in this case, we best understand that language is not just a mere tool for communication, but then language actually influences the way we think, the way we even learn, the way we interact with our society. So in that case, how does language shape a child's brain development? Language in general, Prof. Bodomo, how does language in general shape a child's brain development?
Okay. Again, thanks for having me here, and I'll agree straight away with what my brother Professor Avea was just saying. Language and cognition are very related. They may have different modules, but they interact. So you may have a language module and a cognitive. That's why somebody can lose language and still think very well, and somebody can think very well but lose language. So, but they're completely connected. And in fact, many years ago, when people were trying to start a new discipline called cognitive science, they would talk about psychology and computer science and neuroscience, but the language aspect was very central to cognitive to this idea, this whole new idea. That's because language is very important in this cognitive development. You mentioned the mother tongue. What is a child's mother tongue? Of course, the mother tongue is supposedly the most important language of the child at that level. So if we're talking about a direct relationship between language and cognition, the mother tongue, of course, will play a very important role in there. I'm sure we're going to talk a lot about this. But there's just clear, many psychologists and linguists and philosophers have already ascertained that language is prima facie. It's a very important aspect that helps us understand the way a child. Now we're talking about, you're getting into muddy water when you talk about language influences our thought. It's a very difficult area, okay. So we have to be very careful there. Okay. So we can come back to it, but I'll leave it at that. Okay. Yeah, it's a very controversial topic.
Yeah, but talking about the controversy here. Yeah. So in that case, can we say one's mother tongue actually influences critical thinking, the way you even think in a way from right from infancy? If you are brought up with your mother tongue, does it actually influence your way of thought in any way?
It will help you express your critical thinking in a better way. Right? It will help you express your language in the strongest form. You cannot say that language shapes the world, such that you cannot. But it helps. I would see it as an influencing factor, but it doesn't have a determining factor to the way you think. It has an influencing factor. It's a tool with which you can express your thoughts. For example, let's talk about solving mathematics. My brother was talking about solving problems. Let's take a typical way of solving mathematics problems. If I say, there was a case in which if I say 3 times 3, 3 multiplied by 3, somebody may not understand what is multiplied. But if you say 3 in 3 different places in our languages, then the child will understand. Yeah. So that using that language helps the child to understand, to express themselves in what he already knew, right? So language has an influencing factor of cognitive development.
Having said that,
then just let me add this. Yeah, he wants to get us out of the idea that language the one that determines how you think. That's not the case.
Yeah,
it's like you say, it helps to solve problems. That's it. It helps to solve problems. Makes you understand things better for you. It's able to allows you to think critically because it is the one that you are able to view the world in. For instance, every day I want to tell somebody come and eat. It is the language I have to do. Otherwise, I have to sign. Even that we have sign language, so I can sign. So it's not like it's the language that makes me see everything. My thoughts are determined mainly about my language. But just that whatever I'm able to do, the language allows me to be able to do that because it makes me to communicate, to link up my environment with whatever I want to say. So that's the whole idea, that it facilitates things for me. I want to solve a problem, then I'm saying, like he says, 1 plus 1, the person 1 plus 1, that's in English. Now, when I say it in what the child really understands and has learned, in the way he's able to express himself, the words that he's familiar with, the environmental thing that I use, if I'm now go and pick a stone in the area or a particular seed in the area that he's used to, and I add it to, he's able to conceptualize it better because the language that has expressed it. Yeah. It's not because, it is because I'm speaking a language, that is how I'm able to see, not exactly so. So that's what I'm trying to say.
So when the guy, if you say, ata, ziri ata, that's 9, away. But if you say 3 times 3, the child will just sit there. But ata, ziri ata, away.
So having said that, then is there any studies or that shows a finding that proves that there's a correlation between using the mother tongue in the early stages? Does it help or in any way shape the academic performance of a child? Are there studies to prove that for one to use the mother tongue at the very early stage for the child is going to help the child in terms of academic performance? Because I'm looking at it from your example.
Yeah.
See, you are saying 3 times 3 or 3 plus 3 in English. But if let's say in Chi, say
yes. The child will understand. Yeah, I don't know whether I want my brother to go first, but if I can, you see, you ask if that early stage last year we came here again. I need to thank the Bureau of Ghana Languages to commend them for the kind of great work you're doing in terms of always doing work on this mother tongue day. But last year we had a mother tongue day event here, and a young man, a researcher, somebody came and said that he had a program I'm sure my brother will know about it, Avea, who had a program for teaching mathematics in the mother tongues of various mother tongues in Twi, I guess in Ga as well, but also in another third language. And he did this experiment, and children who were learning in English were not doing very well at all. In fact, they failed the exam. But when he now brought those children to learn in Akan and in Ga or in Avea, some of the languages, then they passed. They actually got very good grades. So that's a typical example about studies. And there are many studies, I'm sure my brother can mention. There are many studies that show that once you start with the mother tongue, the child can do very well. I mean, we can talk about.
Yeah. The idea about learning a language has two things. It's about your mind and then your environment, your circumstances. And so, if a child is taught in the thing that he knows, he starts from just like any other class and in any learning context. It's expected that most of what you're teaching the child, he knows. You add him just a bit of it. So, for instance, if I go into a class and I change the thing on the other side, that's why sometimes student teachers fail when they do a presentation. They say so many things the child doesn't understand. They end up with just a little that he actually understands. When it should be in the other side. So that the idea is that once you begin the child in his or her own language, it becomes easier for a child to understand. Because speaking another language already is a barrier. Just imagine you just walking into a class of somebody from say the Frafra community or from the Kusasti or the Avea community who doesn't speak any Akan or any English, walks into a class or a place where people are speaking just a particular language that doesn't understand, just can see what it is. It's just like we are just in a whole different world. So the idea, it is true that, and there are so many things. One of the earliest things was done somewhere in Nigeria, where they took about 6 classes and then they spent several years to follow, comparing, see how they have developed over time in terms of their language. And they established, even at that time, the 70s, that children learn in their own language. There have been several studies that support this kind of concept. And it's obvious. If you ask, I just give one anecdotal evidence, people will tell you various stories about the fact that doing the thing in your own language helps. Just go to my wife, even with the grown-ups. It's easier when you speak very well. You even get Jara when you speak in your own language. You understand? So, it's obvious.
It's gradually getting interesting. We have much more questions to ask and deliberate on. We'll take a break and then we'll be back shortly with you. Welcome back to our discussion. The discussion is getting interesting. Before we left, we're looking at how does speaking one mother's tongue impact cognitive development, particularly in children. We're looking at how speaking one mother's tongue impact the cognitive development, particularly in children. And then earlier, before the break, we're looking at how using the mother tongue at the basic level affects academic performance. Prof, there's this notion that people have that using the mother tongue to teach children at the basic level limits them from learning other languages. So there's this notion that when you are using, let's say, a Twi or Frafra or Dagbani to teach a child, it doesn't help the child in learning the English language. Would we say that is a myth or is a misconception that we have? Bodomo, can you help us with that?
I should start. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, of course, it is definitely a myth. We're lucky that we're on studio. Otherwise, I would have said used some expletives. But it is really, it is nonsense for anybody to say that learning one language might affect other languages. Again, educationists all know that you begin with what you know, and then learn new things. So when you learn your language, and when you learn a second language, there are certain strategies you use to learn a language, to learn a third or fourth language. So, of course, there may be what people linguists have talked about interferences. So, for example, when somebody speaks English, the person is a Ghana person, we know why that the person is from Ghana speaking area. But that's not the most important issue. That's what is called interference. But the interference doesn't disturb the overall competency in learning a language. So, just go out there onto the streets. Children do not need, to just learn one language after the other. They can learn languages at the same time, together, multilingualism. So, if that's happening outside there, there's no reason why we shouldn't be introducing that into our school system, so that children can learn one language and learn a second language, learn third language. It has an impact on the ability to learn other language. On the contrary, it helps you. The strategies we use to learn one language can be used to learn another or subsequent languages. My brother may have something to say.
It's really sometimes very, very annoying for people to say this kind of thing. And it is that kind of that attitude towards our own languages. And of course, we don't mean that other people speaking English don't have the same thing. Generally, there's a certain general attitude toward mother tongue. So you can go to England for a time, their performance in English was bad. You understand? So even people who came from Africa and they're in the class will perform better.
Yeah.
No, but what you're saying that general our attitude to our own languages is to extend that even officialdom, the elite, have a certain attitude. It is this thing that translates into this kind of statement like it will influence, because people want to find a reason why they should teach the English and not the Ghanaian languages.
Mm-hmm.
But like you just said, if you take language, even the structures, take the sound system. If you take English that we are learning, a lot of the sound systems are the same. Let's just take this this single one, like the okay? You have it, we don't write it in English, we write it in our local languages, like Nsoh. So that there is in English, even though it's not written in English, and it's in many of our languages. So if you look at the alphabet, if you look at the sounds themselves, there are a lot of similar. If you look at me, and we have talking orthography, the spelling system. If you look at them, there are very few things that will actually change. So even just the sound system, and then you go to the spelling system, the child can just learn and just transfer that into the other language. Number two, the grammatical structure, the words, everything, especially when they are similar. Like if you are learning from, say, Dagare, and I want to learn Frafa, a lot of the words are just the same. Either they are similar in pronunciation or just the way you write them is the same. So it is actually a serious error that people think in that way. And it's not about, it is a statement, and because of our own attitude that we carry that in the classroom. And I just did some research, I just published a paper on that. We call some data in Bolga there. And you could see especially private schools, they say, we don't allow English because it's interfering their thing. We don't, and they just say it to you. We don't allow it to be spoken here. Yeah. So it is that attitude that they carry. It's not the truth. Unfortunately, perceptions sometimes can be so much deep-seated that people get it. And let everybody get this right. And as the professor said, a child can learn several languages at the same time. And remember he said interferences. It didn't say interruptions.
Yeah.
I mean, just that distance. I mean, like in the Frafra, if you listen to the Frafra and the Kusal, for instance, you want to say church, sometimes that people say kek. Okay, we don't have that ch there.
Yeah.
Some say, some are either say, so you see, or G and J to say gag. You understand?
Yeah. And
if you go to Ghana, they are like that. So those are interferences.
Yes.
And that's probably, if you go to Nigeria, they speak English differently. You go to South Africa, they speak differently. That is about accent and other things. So for us, as language aspects, these are things that people have perceived them, conceived them, and because officials in government have been so indoctrinated, they don't want to promote Ghanaian languages. They have to find a way to try, and those in the private sector, there's a person that if you speak English, your child writes English, then your performance is good. Yeah. So when they go, in every this grammar school, English, this kind of grammar schools, you go there, they want the child to write in English so that they can get more people in their school. So that's all there's no proof in it.
What it means here is that it's better we do from the known to the unknown.
Where the professor just said that.
Yeah.
That's exactly
So,
what I said.
what then are some of the challenges that children who are not being taught at the basic level in their mother language, what are some of the challenges they are likely to face?
My brother can begin.
You know, those who don't start in it, it's like they learn, they face a lot of learning difficulties at the beginning, because even now it's a bit better because we interact a lot. But when you go to community, even here it's better. When you go to the local or my community, a lot of the children go into school knowing mostly just some fra. So when they go there and they sadly have to just go and start learning English, that slows them down. So what I think that does to them is that, see, a child that you go to a playground and he's jumping and play ampe and quarreling with people and making so much noise, come to class, he's so quiet because he's intimidated by the language. And that actually affects the child's learning other subjects. Because once he feels intimidated, and then you don't let him know, him or her know that, okay, well, you can, if you don't understand, you can ask in English. The teacher is a Ephraim, he can explain that to you. And he goes there intimidated, and when he speaks English, you laugh at him. The teacher says, shut down, you can't speak English. That affects the child's even general emotional development, mental development, and then sometimes they can drop out of school. In fact, I remember many of us when we were starting school, a lot of that drop out of school because of this attitude, because they couldn't speak English, and people were teasing them. They hang big bones around their necks. You know, they punish them, and so that kind of thing. So the child, so a lot of children drop out, and then they don't have the confidence, and they can grow with that in their lives, losing confidence and losing, trust in even the school system, and that can affect their general cognitive and their general educational development.
So, Prof. Bodomo, how can...
Let me add to what you were saying. And in addition, you asked about what are some of the challenges they face. You see, we're not saying that children who haven't had the opportunity to learn in their mother tongue, that they have been complete disasters.
No.
They have found other ways. And these are challenges. One of the things is they may adopt a rote learning approach.
That's right.
Do you see the point? So if you teach me in English, if I don't know English well, and I'll try to learn, I'll read something, I'll just remember rote learning, which we call in Ghanaian parlance, chupopas forget. So this is a challenge. So when you see children beginning to do this, one of the reasons may be that they are struggling with the language of instruction, with the medium of instruction. If the children were taught well in their mother tongue and they can put one and one together to two, then they will take a systematic approach to learning and understanding this. But when you do that to them, they are lost in limbo and they may choose to go the rote approach to this. That's what I just to add to what.
And that's one of the things that we might be, one reason why we might not be able to be doing the kind of innovation and discovery at them, because the child, when he starts in the other language, and now he has to begin to think and adjust himself. And so, but if you start in your own language, immediately you begin to recognize your environment, you begin to think of new things, create new things. But we have to struggle first of all to learn the language. Struggle first of all to understand the language. Struggle first of all to transfer that into another language, into another subject. That alone blocks your learning. You know, and serious difficulties for the child.
As we are getting close to our discussion, I want us to answer this question in two folds. Now, how can parents and educators encourage the use of the mother tongue? And also, what role does government play here in promoting the mother tongue in our education? So it's in two folds. The role of the parents, because at the end of the day, education, we have to start from the home. So the role of the parents and educators, and at the end of the day, what is the role of government in all this to help promoting the Ghanaian language or the mother tongue?
We can begin with the role of the parent. That's why we call it home language. If a parent consciously chooses not to teach their child in the mother tongue, government cannot do anything. because the child begins from there, even before they come to school, right? Children start pronouncing words around the age of 2 or so. So if we don't take advantage of that, so you ask, what is the role? The role of the parent is to impart their languages. The languages they want them are the mother tongue. By the way, the concept of mother tongue is very complex. So a child in a mixed marriage can have 2 mother tongues.
Yes.
So it's very complex. So each of the parents must try as much as possible to impart their own language on the child. And so if they don't do that, by the time they go to school, well, they are already disadvantaged. And to add to what my brother was saying, there are people, some of these parents have this attitude that their children have achieved a lot and that they're doing well in school when they can speak English or French. Don't forget that if we're talking about other countries, English as a medium, English as an official language here, and French in other places. So if we're not against the use of English and French, but we're saying that first things first or concurrently. So it just goes without saying that the parents have a very large role to play in imparting the child's mother tongue or language of identity or kurum kasa or whatever you want to call it. Now, I think my brother will answer the government aspect.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So thank you very much. I think, and this is where, just before I go to the government component, in so many areas in the developed country, and let me say like Ghana or in many African countries, because we put, let's just say first thing first, we put second thing first or third thing first, it has affected many of our area. And yet for a very long time, we are not understanding. You go to many of these parents, and he said that you go to homes, and then they just refuse to speak the language to their children. With the wrong perception, because they have heard these things over and over again in their market, on the funeral grounds, that it negatively affects their child's development or their child's promotions or improvement in school. And so they grow with that kind of attitude. And so the parents must be made to understand from the beginning that they have responsibility to teach the child their own languages and their own environment, their own everything, so that when the child, and that they should remember that the child can learn several languages until you reach about the age, I think 15 or going, most of the time what you call lateralization or something. A child can learn almost everything. And you can see it if you go to just right here, 449, whatever, Nima here, and you can see that they are speaking 5, 6, 7 languages. So why present the child from learning? So they must understand it doesn't stop their language. So they have responsibility to ensure that they grow the child in his environment, in his language, which is the first aspect of his environment. Number 2, in terms of the government's role. Now the government role also comes from the parents' role, because it is we same parents who complain that we don't want them to use our mother tongue in the school and all that. That also influences the kind of language policy we have. So it means that the first thing is that parents must accept and understand and push for the use of their own languages in school. Number 2, now the government knowing that is important. And it's not all the time that parents know what is important. So the parents have a certain limitation. The government has a lot of aspects. I mean, a lot of people have gone to school, who have gone abroad, who themselves have experiences in their lives. They should be able to develop a language policy that allows for mother tongue use in school. It should be it should be compulsory. Unfortunately, because of the kind of perception we told earlier, and the kind of misconception about the mother tongue, sometimes leadership in government education ministers, directors of education, and all that, they tend to agree with that misconception that using the mother tongue, and so that has been the biggest problem in our schools. So government must consciously promote the use of the mother tongue, our mother languages, in schools, and we must go, and all those who are also in government which must help to advocate for the use of our languages so that we can institutionalize and make it a legal document so that we can use it. As of now, it's not working very well. And that has to change.
Can I mention an anecdote here?
Yeah.
I mean, I took on a parent about, for me, I can sometimes a parent about. And so in defense of parents, I'm like, see, the person, I'm not going to mention names, said that, you see, they look at what happens in society.
Exactly.
And they say that their child, if their child doesn't master English very well in the Ghanaian context, or if it doesn't master French very well, in other words, they don't master the official language very well, they're not going to progress. So that's why they want
to get opportunities.
They want to prepare them right from the beginning. So for them, the mother tongue has no role to play in subsequent attempt at achieving and a success. So in addition to what my brother is saying, the government has to set up language policies that give a commanding role of the mother tongue in the child's everyday life. Why can we not say that to work in the civil service, you must have an A-level qualification in a Ghanaian language? Once you begin to place importance on the mother tongue in the success towards the success of the child, and that the child has to use the mother tongue as a success, as a marker of success, then the parent I was talking to said that, of course, he or she would train their child right from the beginning. But they sometimes say that it is because the mother tongue doesn't have a role to play for them. That's why they do that, which is wrong. And so let's not also blame the parent. The government has a role to play. So your question is excellent in the sense that you're asking, you're asking about the role of the parent and the role of the teacher. I would say it's a coordinating thing. Parents and government have to talk to each other. In fact, in some countries, parents push,
actually dictate
for language policy and the mother tongue.
Okay. Thank you.
In the colonial time, even those people, these colonialists who had to come to work here, they had to try and pass the exam.
Yes.
The mother tongue. They are going to study
it.
Pass it.
Yeah, the missionaries.
Yes, the missionaries have to study it.
So why are we not doing it?
We are not doing ourselves.
And
now we are in charge.
It's a simple thing government can do. To work in a civil service, how can you go and serve people of Kumasi if you cannot read and write? But when we talk about mother tongue, it's not just only speaking. It is also reading and writing. How could you be a bank person or some civil servant in Kumasi and you don't even know how to read and write? How could you be in Tamale, in Bolga, for Buruni, in Wa and all these kind of things? So we should. It's a simple thing. It's a simple thing to do. Just rewrite our education system like that, and say that every child must learn at least one and maybe two Ghanaian languages and be able to read and write them. Then parents will find value in these languages and will push further.
It has been an interesting conversation, and I wish we could continue, but unfortunately, we are far behind time. But I hope we meet again to further continue this discussion into other areas of the mother tongue to see how best we can push these ideas that we have put in place. So to wrap up everything, Professor Avea, I want you to give us your final words with regards to today's topic, and then in a form of a summary, tell us what parents should do, government should do, and the importance of the mother tongue in the cognitive development of children as our main topic.
Okay, so thank you very much. It's been nice, and I hope that we can have many more of these opportunities. But just to say that this issue of mother tongue and education, mother tongue cognitive development, mother tongue and what benefits we can have as a nation, we have talked about this for so long. We must decide what we really want to do with our mother tongues and how we want to get our children to benefit from it. For us, we have said it, we have written, we have organized conferences, we have organized meetings. For me, what I can summarize is simple. that we expect all this we are saying. One, parents must begin to understand that their children need their mother tongue. And that does not prevent them from learning any other language. And it doesn't minimize their opportunities. It doesn't minimize their chances of getting better in life. And number two, governments and all authority must begin to look where we think we can develop better. And that is from our environment. And language is part of our environmental issue that we need. We have to focus on it, invest in it, and then we can get results. We should not run away from it. That's all I can say.
Thank you very much. Professor Bodomo,
Okay.
it's been an interesting one. What's your final take on the topic for today?
My final take, first of all, that once again, I would like to thank and to commend actually the Bureau of Ghana Languages and you, Kobrana, and all the other young men and women here who are doing this and helping raise this issue. This is not the first time I've come here. Last year, I was here again. So that means that there's a certain amount of sustainability. Of course, I also want to thank my brother. I'm honored to have you on the same stage with him. I would like to say that language is very important for cognitive development. One of the key aspects of cognitive development is critical thinking. If we want our children to be more adept at critical thinking and not just rote learning, as I was mentioning before, one of the best resources is the mother tongue. If we use mother tongue education, if we implement mother tongue education, it means that children will learn from the very beginning through their mother tongue. That is a sure way to improve on critical thinking. And I think that's what I would like to end with, the relation between language and cognition. Thank you.
Viewers, it's been a very interesting conversation. I've been your host, Kwabananan, and with me here I had Professor Avea and Professor Adams Bodomo. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for having us or contributing to this discussion. This is the Bureau of Ghana Languages, and our main goal or mission is to promote and preserve the Ghanaian languages. Stay tuned and watch this space for much more exciting topics with the aim of promoting the Ghanaian language. We'll come your way again. Thank you.